everybody. Welcome to MedWell Unscripted Episode 2. We're so excited to have you here. Happy Thursday. And we're really excited because we have a special guest today. We're going to have a great conversation about talking a little bit about products and strains and answering all your questions. So just some housekeeping, just to let you know, you are welcome. We have Kayla in the chat managing questions. We'll also pop up some questions along the way. So feel free to ask questions as we go. And our goal is to help get them answered for you. So I'd like to first start off and introduce myself. My name's April. I'm with MedWell Health Wellness Centers, and I have Emily Waxman, who is our Director of Community Outreach. And we're going to welcome our special guest, Carly Goudreau from Central Ave Compassionate Care. Welcome, ladies.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Everyone having a great day. I know it's very hot here in Connecticut. We're kind of all over the place today. So, all right, I'd love to start with kind of, Emily, just do a quick introduction about your role at MedWell, because I think it's helpful because we have some new friends here on the chat today. And then I'm going to have Carly, you introduce yourself.
Of course. So my name is Emily Waxman, and I am here with MedWell as the outreach person here that goes and visits people just like Carly at the dispensaries and kind of tell them why they should be recommending their patients to MedWell so that we can assist in getting people their MMJ cards and making sure that we're servicing them throughout the entire year that they're a patient of ours. And I'm always here to be able to do fun things like this that we're doing today with MedWell Unscripted, because that's my favorite part of the job, to be able to say how fantastic MedWell is. So.
Awesome. Awesome. So Carly, tell us a little bit about your role at Central Ave and kind of a little bit about the things that you do, because I know that you're a guru in MMJ and recreational. So
thank you for the glowing introduction. My name's Carly, and I've been with Central Ave Compassionate Care for about a year and a half now, and I'm in a marketing role. So I am the person behind all of our social media profiles. And I also work with a lot of the certifying physicians like MedWell to coordinate patient outreach opportunities just like this one. And, it primarily focused on just providing resources and information and assistance to our patients. And, all the fun marketing things that go with that. But I'm really excited to join you guys today and hopefully answer some questions for prospective patients.
Awesome.
That's great.
All right. Emily, do you want to get started? We'll kind of get started with some questions, if that's okay with you, Carly.
Absolutely.
All right.
So thank you, April. So Carly, I was so excited to have you as a special guest, because I would say that my number one question wherever I go, whether I'm on the phones or pre-COVID days when I would do tables and things like that at different places, especially here in Massachusetts, we're always asked why people should continue to renew their card or obtain their card now that there is, recreational use here, which is totally legal. So I was so excited because you have not only the medical side of things, but you also have the adult use side of things with Gage as well. So I was really thrilled to be able to have your perspective as to how you can explain to everyone out there as to the differences and the advantages and the disadvantages, and instead of it coming from myself as to why people would want to get their medical card. I was really excited to be able to have you give your input and hear what you have to say and what you tell patients.
Absolutely, yeah, and certainly, like you mentioned, we have Central Ave Compassionate Care, which is an exclusive. We only serve registered patients at that location, and then just down the road we have Gage Cannabis, where we serve recreational cannabis. And I hear this question a lot. It's so easy to just walk into a recreational dispensary. Why go through the trouble of getting your card? And truly, there's a lot of benefits there, and the biggest one is the money saving aspect of it. So in a recreational cannabis shop, if you are not a registered patient, you are paying a 20% tax in the state of Massachusetts on every purchase. And offhand, that might not seem like a lot, But if you're a recreational cannabis user, I like to say on average, most people maybe purchase, an eighth every week or month, or, an eighth of cannabis, which on average is about $50 to $60. And you pay approximately $100 to $200 to get your certification as a patient, right? So when you do the math out quickly, it's not hard to rack those numbers up in your head, that you save that 20% very quickly by getting your patient card, because you're not paying 20% on every purchase. So that alone is a huge perk. And I think that a lot of prospective patients are hesitant because they might not believe that they qualify for a patient card. I'm sorry, I'm getting my words confused here. A lot of prospective patients just think like, oh, I probably don't qualify for that. I think the general consensus is a lot of people feel like you have to have some really debilitating disease to qualify for a patient card. And truly, the state of Massachusetts is one of the most accepting for all conditions for the medical marijuana program. So with that being said, other benefits include, there's higher purchase limits. So when you walk into a recreational dispensary, you are only allowed to purchase 1 ounce of cannabis per day. And if you're interested in edibles and concentrates and vapes, that ounce goes very quickly because all of those things count towards your daily limit. However, when you are a patient, you have a rolling limit over 60 days, which is 10 ounces. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm quite sure. So really, if you're diverse in your cannabis use and you want to try a lot of different things, that rolling limit makes it a lot easier for you to, have options on hand without, really having to go to the dispensary every single day to pick up new items. So just those two things alone, the bigger limit and the money saving aspect are the two biggest ones that I find people really find advantageous. And then, there's a couple other one-off benefits. Medical patients get access to delivery, which is great. Recreational dispensaries are not allowed to deliver in the state of Massachusetts. So you can get your cannabis delivered to your home, which Central Ave Compassionate Care actually delivers to the entire state of Massachusetts. So no matter where you are on the landlocked part of the state here, we obviously aren't able to go to the islands, but you can get it delivered to your door. Don't have to go to the dispensary.
That's so great. Especially with COVID right now, that's huge for people.
Yeah. We saw a huge spike in people that wanted to have their cannabis delivered. Previously, even patients that are close to us that were coming to us regularly, might be immunocompromised or have someone immunocompromised that's living with them. So that was a really big perk to getting your patient card, was just, being able to stay home and stay safe. And the last one that I like to mention is just that there's higher edible limits for dosage. So if you're an individual that might need a higher dosage to really get the benefits you need out of an edible, being a patient is really advantageous for that, because recreational dispensaries are only allowed to sell edibles at a certain dosage. So you really get like more product selection, bigger limits, save money. There's a lot of perks to getting your card.
Great.
Thank you so much for explaining that. It's so nice to have it come from someone like yourself that, you're constantly wearing both hats there. And so to be able to say that is really great, because that's, constantly what I'm saying to everybody, but it's always nice to hear from someone like you. So thank you so much for that really fantastic answer. That was awesome.
So I think that was a great segue into talking about products. So, I think one of the things as our patients come in and get their certifications, the doctors do go over, different products that they can use for cannabis. They also talk a little bit about kind of the different strains, but it's really kind of a brief overview, because that really falls a lot, I think, more into the expertise at the dispensary level. So if you don't mind, I kind of like to just walk through an overview of the different types of products. So like, let's start with flower. If somebody were to use flower, how would they ingest that? I think one of the things, these are questions that a lot of times people don't want to ask. So our goal is to kind of give them an overview of what the difference is. So tell us a little bit about a patient that might use flower for their choice of cannabis.
Absolutely. I think the most confusing part about hearing the term flower that we use so freely in the industry is that most people that know cannabis don't really understand what's flower, right? Like
right.
it's bud, it's pot, it's the same thing that you probably got a million years ago when you first tried cannabis. It's the most basic and raw form of the cannabis plant. So traditionally, the most common way to use flower is through a pipe or a glass piece. And that's really simple. You just break it up with your fingers. You can use a grinder device, which is similar to what you'd use in your kitchen as an herb grinder, and kind of break that plant down and use a pipe for that. And then in addition to that, you can also roll joints, which people tend to be familiar with, a little piece of rolling paper. And that's really like the most simple way to use flower. And pipes come in all different shapes, sizes, materials. Personally, I just got my hands on a silicone pipe, which might seem a little unusual, but they're impossible to break. And really simple to use no matter where you are or what resources you have handy to you. And you just put a little in the end of the pipe there, but you can also go even bigger than that. Some people are familiar with bongs or water pieces, which a lot of patients find to be beneficial because they're a little less harsh when you smoke them. So it's really about preference, but at Central Ave, we're always happy to kind of give you a little demo. So if you're, not really sure what type of piece might be best for you, we do carry a pretty great assortment of paraphernalia to use, and we'll kind of give you a little demo of how to load it up and how to, so that way when you get home, you're ready to go. And flower is really the easiest way to start, I find. Just because it's kind of what people are used to when they think of cannabis.
Right. And so it's definitely more of an inhaled type of, right? Exactly. And so what would be another inhaled product, like a pre-roll? That's something, if we, let's stay on the line of what's something that people that can smoke, that can ingest that way, what would be another product on that line?
Yeah, pre-rolls are great. So just a joint, another term that we use freely in the industry, but might not really ring a bell for people as a pre-roll, right? So it's just a pre-rolled joint that's ready to go. You smoke it just like you would a cigarette, essentially, and it's ready to go. They come in a nice little tube, and you just light the end of it, and that's really the easiest way to go because there's no effort required on your end. It's ready to go right out of the package.
Sure. And that leads into Rob's question here. I may have missed this, but do dispensaries sell flower in any ready use form? So preloaded pipe, do they sell it in a preloaded pipe as well?
Actually, that is something new that we've just started carrying. We call them chillums. So it's basically a glass pipe that has cannabis preloaded into one end of it, and you smoke it similarly to a pre-roll, but it's a glass pipe. So once you've used the cannabis that comes in it, you can actually repack it and use it again, and it comes all in one.
That's great.
And similar to a pre-rolled joint, same way. It's ready to use right out of the package. Great question.
Great.
That is a great question. So let's talk a little bit about vaporizers. Kind of how does a vaporizer, like what type of product? And and again, I think it really goes for people that have been using cannabis for a long time. They are definitely familiar terms, but somebody for newly coming in that comes to your website and is looking at products. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, vapes are really increasing in popularity because they're traditionally almost odorless. And there's no, lighting, there's no smoke, very little smoke. The vaporizer evaporates very quickly. So a vape is essentially a battery and a cartridge. There's two parts to a vape. Some of them come all together, which is what we call a disposable, where the cartridge is attached to the battery. But traditionally, you would buy a battery unit and a vaporizer cartridge, and that cartridge has oil in it. Many manufacturers make the oil in different ways. So us at Central Ave, we don't make vapes ourselves, but we do stock the best vaporizer cartridges from all the manufacturers across the state of Massachusetts. And so you'll find distillate cartridges, you'll find CO2 derived cartridges, and traditionally it's a little bit of a trial and error with those to find out which one you like the best or which one works, what formula works the best for you. But like I said, they're really increasing in popularity because people that maybe don't have access to an outdoor area to smoke, you can use a vape inside, and there's almost no scent, nothing left behind for others to know that you've been using. It's very discreet.
Carly, maybe, I'm sorry, April.
No, go ahead.
Carly, maybe you can just touch upon, because I think that vapes got a little bit of a bad rap, from the fall, where they were banned in Massachusetts for a while. And, I would try to explain to our patients that, it was really those black market sort of devices that were really causing, I think, a lot of the issues. Can you maybe just expand about how in Massachusetts there is just such a huge regulation with the product and the devices, and that the regulations are really at such a high standard here. Maybe you can just touch upon that a little bit so it can dispel some of these myths about why people have this, that vaping is terrible.
Yeah, certainly. It really did get a bad rep there for a while. And, there was a period of time where they were banned and we unfortunately weren't allowed to sell them. But like you said, unfortunately, there was some black market products that floated around out there that, had some harmful ingredients in them and really could make you sick. But fortunately for the state of Massachusetts, we do have some of the tightest and highest regulatory standards for our products, and vapes, along with every other product that's sold through a dispensary, does go through rigorous testing. So we have third-party independent labs that do testing on every product that we sell, and they test for contaminants and harmful ingredients, so that those types of products never make their way onto the shelf at a dispensary. And that's why you can trust the products that you buy from a dispensary versus buying something on the street, because you can even see the testing number. You can reference the test itself. You can see when it was tested, when it was packaged. Everything is traced from the moment it's a seed to put into the soil to the moment it sells to you through the dispensary. So that's why it's important to use dispensaries as your source, because you can trust those products that come through there.
Right. Awesome. That's a great question and great answer. So our friend Samantha's asking, could you answer why flower versus vape versus edible all feel different? For instance, I prefer the feeling I get from flower, but do not enjoy the feeling of edibles.
It's a great question. Your body processes each of those things differently. So for instance, when you inhale flower or a vape as an inhalant, it's being absorbed through your lungs and coming into your body that way. If you take an edible, for instance, that's going to go through your digestive system. So it is going to provide you with different effects. And it's really individualized. Some people will swear that it all is the same, where others say that, they won't strictly do edibles or strictly stick with flower for that reason. It's really dependent on your own system and how you react to what you're putting into it.
All right, great. We have another question from Greg. Are whole flower vaporizers as discreet as far as odor goes, or as regular vapes? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I haven't personally used a flower vaporizer, but I do hear that they leave a little bit of a stronger odor than I think a vaporizer cartridge would. I've often heard to the smell referred to as like burnt popcorn, which isn't great smelling personally. But yes, I do think that the cartridges themselves, where it's an extracted form of cannabis, does leave less of an odor than a whole plant flower vaporizer would.
All right, I have another question. So Jackamazan that's their username on YouTube. So I have a few questions. I guess the first would be, where do you see the future of medical cannabis dispensaries going? Currently, it seems like the focus is on high THC products. So is that something that you can answer?
Yeah, I think I can speak to it a little bit. Being in both the rec and the medical industry, I can certainly say that consumers are really focused on whatever product is testing the highest. And certainly, I think as the cannabis industry evolves in the state and our consumers become more educated on the different components and cannabinoids in cannabis, I do think there'll be a little bit of a shift as far as what people look for. For instance, there's so many cannabinoids in each plant, not just THC. And in addition to that, there's terpenes and all these different elements to the plant that really affect the way that you react to it. So, some people might look for high CBD, or they might look for CBN because that's helpful with sleep. And I think the more education that we can provide, similar to this platform we're on right now, will help people to understand what to look for versus just like that high number, Right.
Sure. So let's kind of move on to concentrates. Tell us a little bit about concentrates and how, what types of products and how it's ingested.
Yeah, concentrates are definitely unique, and typically I think we like to say they're reserved for more experienced cannabis users because they are so much more potent than using flower. But I do like to compare concentrates to a vaporizer, for instance, to a vape cartridge, because in theory, it really is a similar product that you're getting, a extracted form of cannabis that's very potent, very concentrated. That's where the name comes from. And traditionally, concentrates are used by dabbing, because that's a term that you hear somebody say dabbing, that's what they're using. So dabbing is a little bit more involved as opposed to smoking flower. There's certainly a couple more tools that you'll need handy, like a torch and a dab rig, which is a little different than a pipe. And, that's kind of why we like to say it's for more experienced cannabis users that are looking for a more intense experience, because that's typically what you'll get from a concentrated product. But personally, I really like, there's vape pens that you can use to load with your own concentrates, which I think people don't always know about or realize that there's an opportunity to use those. So there's a few that you can actually like load in wax, shatter, sugar, and smoke it similarly to a vaporizer, which is almost as easy as, and just great as using a vape. So there's a lot of different ways that you can dabble in concentrates, dabble, pun intended. But I do like to suggest that people, become more comfortable with their tolerance level and their, use of cannabis before they jump into concentrates. It can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
Carol's asking, are strains containing high CBD better for pain relief?
It's really the individual, it's really trial and error with different strains to find what's going to provide you with relief from your specific symptoms. I don't like to say any one cannabinoid is going to do one thing for everyone, right? Because the way your body processes the plant is different based on your symptoms and all the variables that can happen to an individual. So people do find that high CBD products are helpful for pain relief. And I think some others might say that high THC products are helpful for pain relief. That's the beauty of plant medicine. It's trial and error. It's finding something that works for you and your system and relieving your symptoms.
All right, perfect. So let's kind of lead into edibles. So what type of edibles are available and kind of what's the difference? So you just went from concentrates, which are very kind of more potent way of ingesting. So let's talk a little bit about edibles.
Yeah, edibles are great, and I think growing in popularity. You know, traditionally edibles are offered in candy type format, so you'll find chocolates, fruit chews or gummies, sometimes caramels. But there's also, you know, some newer edibles that are coming onto the market. You know, I've seen cheese crackers, for instance, or infused honey. They're really, you know, becoming much more diverse in the edible area. But, you know, traditionally, I'm sure that most people have heard the saying before, you know, you start low and you go slow. Edibles are very unique to your body's digestive system, where one individual might feel the effects in 15 minutes, another may not feel the effects for 45 minutes because your body takes more time to digest that product. So it's a good idea to just start with a little and build up to the experience that you're looking for. But there's a flavor in a candy and an item out there for everyone. That's for certain. There's a lot of options in the edible realm.
All right.
Would you recommend that for someone who's fairly new to getting their card, or a first-time person into Central Ave? Is that something that would be recommended to them because it's fairly easy, or do you prefer something else for a first-time person?
You know, I do think edibles are a great place to start if you're looking for a smokeless alternative, right? Because, you know, traditional inhaling of smoke isn't always friendly for everyone.
Right.
Most edibles are dosed at about 5 milligrams per piece or per bite. So it's really easy. That's a great, like, low dose to start with. And then if you find that, you know, you didn't feel anything after an hour of that, you can always take another one. It's really easy to kind of build on it with edibles. So I do think it's a safe place to start. You know, certainly there are very high dosed edibles out there. So it's important to, you know, discuss that with your dispensing bud tender to make sure you're getting something that is a low dose to start with.
Yeah, thank you. That's great answer.
Well, there's definitely lots of decisions in deciding on what product's best for you. So let's kind of briefly talk about topicals, and then we'll kind of wrap it up with that, and we can talk to a little bit more about strains.
Sure. Yeah, topicals are great for people that are looking for really isolated relief. So, for instance, if you have like joint pain, or you know, maybe you're recovering from an injury in a specific area, topicals tend to provide very isolated relief to the area that you apply them to, versus like a whole body high experience. I typically hear from patients that you don't necessarily get high from using a topical. It's really going to provide you with relief in the area that you apply the topical to. So they come in lotions, they come in balms. I've even seen bath salts and items that you can soak in if you're having, you know, a lot of pain. And I know, for instance, there's a Nordic Goddess body balm that is very popular amongst our patients. I believe that's made by Sierra. And that is almost provides like an icy hot type of relief along with that cannabis, which people find really helpful for, you know, joint pain or like isolated relief.
All right, great. So I think one of the key takeaways that I took from all the different products is that it really is individualized, right? Can you talk to a little bit about, if I just got my medical marijuana certification card, I came to Central Ave, kind of how could somebody help me? Because it can be overwhelming. There's so much to choose from. Where do I start? What dosage do I start with? Can you talk to a little bit about your process and how that happens?
Sure. You know, certainly things are a little different right now, being in the world of COVID and trying to keep our patients protected. But traditionally, we do offer one-on-one consultations at Central Lab with our new patients, and that's a process that we typically take new patients through, where we'll sit down and review the menu with you and have a one-on-one type of consultation, where we'll kind of guide you towards the right category or products that make the best sense for the type of relief that you're looking for. It is a little tricky right now, where we're trying to keep everyone safe. We're not able to provide that in-store one-on-one consultation like we normally would, but right now the best way to consult with us is by phone if you have questions about products. And certainly, we always like to refer patients to their certifying physicians as well, like MedWell, to get resources from both ends that will just kind of guide you into the right categories or strain types that would be most beneficial for you.
All right, great. And along the way, you were talking about different products. So does it help them with products? You mentioned vaporizers, you mentioned joints, rolling joints. So is that something that you help patients with as they come in, and do you sell those accessories at your location?
Yeah, we do. We have a great selection of accessories. So we have vape batteries to go with the cartridges. We try to be as much of a one-stop shop as we can. So we offer papers. Occasionally we'll have vendors in and we'll do demonstrations of how to roll joints or how to pack a bowl, just to give a little more one-on-one type introduction to that type of cannabis use. Like I said, we are a little restricted from doing things in person right now. It's certainly different now than it was 6 months ago. But hopefully soon we'll get back to being able to do things like that, so that we can, show you the whole process from start to finish in store.
All right. One of the things we actually talked about on our last live was sometimes people are very apprehensive, right? So, and what kind of things do you offer for privacy? So if somebody wanted to call on the phone or be very discreet because they're outside of their comfort zone for the first few times. And how do you guys help with that, ease that process? And I totally understand COVID has messed up our world as we know it. So, but how can you help somebody coming in where they're apprehensive?
Yeah, traditionally we do have an office dedicated to one-on-one consultations. So traditionally you could set up an appointment with us and we would delegate, a very knowledgeable staff member to sit down and meet with you in a private space. And have a consultation and go through all of our resources, go through our menu with you, and provide that one-on-one consultation. And we can do the same by phone. You can always email us to set up a specific time that works for you. And we're also trying to work on other ways that we can consult with patients during this unique time that we're in. But traditionally, yes, we do have a private a room for that where we can, sit down with you one-on-one and have that conversation.
All right, great. And earlier on, you had mentioned about delivery. So I know, and you said you have a huge footprint, right, covering the whole state. So how does that process work for somebody that is at risk or just not comfortable because of the times that we're in? How does the delivery process work? Do they go to your website? Do they call? How does that work?
Either way, traditionally we like to point people towards our website because that has the full menu for you to look at. And there's descriptions on there, there's testing information. You can really make some educated decisions on what you're looking for from our online menu, and you can place your entire delivery order right through our online menu. But certainly we are available by phone if you have more questions about the products, or maybe just your first time, you want to learn a little bit more about how it works. Okay. But we do deliver several days throughout the week. You'll place an order on our website and we will reach out to you within about 1 to 2 days and schedule your delivery time. So it's not same day. We do come a day or two after you place your order. So it's good to get it in advance. Right. And like I said, we go through the entire state of Massachusetts. So we kind of work our schedule out so that we're, spread out through the state when we go. make deliveries. There's no charge for delivery. We do require different purchase minimums based on how far away from us you are, just to make it, worth your while and our while to get out there to deliver to you. But our team goes as far as Cape Cod, all the way to the Berkshires. They are all over the place, and we just started accepting debit cards for deliveries as well. So we're able to kind of make the whole transaction as touchless as possible, so we can keep our patients safe.
That's fantastic.
So I know this is kind of with strains, when you talk about different strains, there's so much we can get into. So I guess what I'd like to just kind of have you share a brief overview of someone is coming in looking at products. How do you help them find a strain? I think that's probably the easiest thing for us to talk about today, and then maybe have another conversation about different types of in the weed strains.
Yeah, in the weeds. I like that. So, traditionally cannabis is classified as a sativa indica hybrid, which is the standard, spectrum that we put cannabis on. And I do think over time we'll get away from using that spectrum, because cannabis is really designed to help you achieve a specific experience. So for instance, if you're looking for something really uplifting to use during the daytime, that's energetic, we typically lean towards sativa strains. Those are, your daytime, your uplifting, you want to get things done, you want to be productive, we head in that direction. If you're looking for something for nighttime, relaxing, maybe help with sleep, or just, want to de-stress, we tend to lean towards indica strains, because those are the more sedating type products that you'll use. And then there's hybrid, which is somewhere in the middle, right? There's sativa leaning hybrids and indica leaning hybrids. And traditionally our patients will come in and say, I used this strain before, what would you recommend? I really liked this one. And that kind of helps guide us in a direction that's helpful for you, because we can always align with similar strains. To give you some diversity. But traditionally, we really like to recommend our patients to keep a journal. I think that's the best way to log what products and strains are working for you. So for instance, you might get home and try something, and it makes your heart race and you're really stressed, and it's not providing you with the experience that you wanted. Log it, keep a journal, keep a note in your cell phone, keep a record somewhere of what it was, how much you used, what the strain was, and when you used it, and bring that with you when you come to the dispensary, and we can kind of go through that together and say, ooh, that wasn't good. Let's head in this direction instead. It's like all trial and error based on the experience that you're having when you try something.
That's a great idea to write that down. There was a comment here in the chat that said somebody had taken an edible, and somebody, they had tried an edible and then a tincture, and kind of the difference of that relief time. So that's something that's definitely helpful in tracking that. So when they come in to buy a different product.
Absolutely.
All right. So awesome. You are like a wealth of knowledge, Carly. You have helped us so much. I've learned new things today, so I totally appreciate that. Tell us a little bit, so tell us your location, share a little bit about how we can find you, and if there's any discounts available to veterans or anything like that, that'd be great. And I'm going to have Kayla drop your website again in our chat here for everybody.
Awesome. Yeah. So Central Lab is located in Ayer, along with Gage Cannabis Co. We're about 2 miles from each other, both located in Ayer. And I know a lot of people maybe have never heard of Ayer before, but we're located near Route 2 and 495, where those routes cross, sort of near Leominster, Harvard, that type of area. Apple country. If you're into apple picking, certainly pay us a visit in the fall.
Love it.
But where we're located, Central Lab is located right downtown in Ayer. It's really easy to get to. Like I said, we do have the free delivery program, and along with that, we do offer our veterans 10% off on every purchase every day. So as long as you can provide us with some documentation to prove your veteran status. We put that right on your account, and every visit we'll honor that discount for you.
Awesome. Well, so thank you so much for being our first official guest on MedWell Unscripted. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Carly.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Thanks, Emily. And so for all our friends out there, we are hosting our MedWell Unscripted every other Thursday at 10 a.m. We host it on YouTube. We host it on Facebook. So please join us. And we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Again, thank you so much, ladies. Everybody, have a great day. And we will talk to you in 2 weeks. See you there.
Bye. Thank you.